In starting this particular painting with the three value approach idea, I'm first of all painting in what I think is the value of the sky in the photo that you see on the right. Now, as you notice, it is darker than the sky itself. And I know that because watercolor dries lighter when it dries. And so you have to go ahead and calculate that tint difference, value difference when it dries. And so I'm using a flat cement a half inch in brush and blocking in all of the big shapes in this particular painting, even some of the shadows that are cutting across the building. And so I'm leaving everything white other than the building itself. There's some flowers in this scene, and so I'll leave that white. And there's a little bit of a fountain there in the middle, and you can't hardly see it, but it's there. So I'm going to go around that a little bit, but I'm not going to let that complicate things. I'm trying to keep this painting as simple as I possibly can, and for instruction purposes, and also for painting. Sometimes we add way too much that we see, and we don't need to. So you can see how I blocked in everything except for the roof. That's another value, but I'm not going to put that in right away. So I'm just kind of going around that little area where the fountain is, a little white on top of there. And then I'm coming up, and if you notice the sky and the leaves are all joined as one. That's called connections. And this is a good way to connect everything to the building instead of each individual part like a catalog. This is things that join things together. Now, after I dry the paper, I'm going to use these croppers just to check to see how close I am on the likeness of the value. And you see, I think that's really pretty close. You can see the two there, and I think that's pretty good. This is how you can check all your values on your particular painting when you're painting it. And also, if you do this enough times, you're actually going to be able to do it without the croppers. Okay, so now we're going to start now with the next value. Now, I haven't shown this, but I put this value on a separate sheet of paper just to see how dark it was. It's not the complete black that you might see, but it's a contrast to what you see in the picture. And so I'm going to block all that in. And now this is another way of connecting the grass with the bush. The shadow of the bush that's on the ground is connected to the shadows of the bush itself in the lower right hand corner. And then I'm going to come up here and I'm going to connect that into that particular connection. We got a tree that cuts across, goes across the top of the building there, the roof. You notice I put that window in, and then I'm going on top of it. So some of the edges will be left, and other edges will be diffused with the leaves. And then on the right-hand side, I'm doing the same thing too. And then I've got a distant ground that you can very seldom, you can't see it in the photograph as well. But I'm going to put that in back there. And this is again with a flat brush. And then I've got these windows. Now they are real dark in the picture, but I'm going to use this particular dark middle value, not black, to put that in. Remember now, this is all going to dry just a little bit lighter than it is when it's wet. Shadow coming across there and there. Go for any details, just big shapes in that value. Okay, now the next thing is to go ahead and start with a darker value, and I consider this the drawing phase of the painting. I'm using a small round brush now because I can draw with it. You can't draw with a flat brush. And I'm painting in the negative spaces of the window and also of the door that's in the middle. It does not have to be exactly how you see, just the indication. I always say don't duplicate, indicate. And that's what I'm doing. I'm just indicating that particular door as I see it in the photograph from a little bit of a distance. And so it's like turning on the lights in your painting now because of this darker value. There's a shadow that cuts diagonally across that door. Okay. We've got a few little pillars on each side of that door. And now as you look at the photograph, that's pretty dark on that side. If you notice now the shadow that is on the pavement is a lighter in value, not as dark. So I'm going to put that in there. There we go. And that shows you now there's a shadow across the pavement, and then of course that shadow is darker. And you can always take your L croppers if you have a problem seeing that value. You can dry the paper, take your L croppers, and check it, just like I showed you in the beginning of this video. That's where the fountain is. A little bit of a indication of a roof line there. Darken that just a little bit more. Use a little water to lighten it up just a little bit on that side. And then a little bit of a texture on top of that. So there's the texture on the pavement that's coming off the sidewalk. And I have a dark eave that goes in the front. Okay, here's where you would take the brush and swish it up on your paper so it's not in a point anymore, so that you can get random strokes that will be looking like leaves. We have a very light value on top of the roof. Now, if you notice, the roof and the sky are just about the same value. And here's where the artist has to come in. And this is where you break down the brush so you can do your leaves. But I'm not going to make that roof the same color as the sky, the same value rather. I'm making it just a little bit lighter than the sky. So there's sometimes where you'll change the value in your painting as you see fit. It's not just copying what you see, it's actually interpreting. A little bit of texture with this rough brush. This is a cold pressed paper, so it doesn't have a lot of texture on it. Not like rough paper would. So now you can get carried away with this type of thing, so you got to be careful you don't overdo it. As I'm approaching that that part of overdoing. Now I'm using sort of a rigger, and I'm going to put in just a little bit of tile, and then some of the tile marks that goes across. And it's hard to see it at this point, but they're there. You know, some of these little details are nice, but you don't have to have all of them. Now I'm going for my darkest dark, and that is a very little. Just accents here and there. Squinting at the work always helps to see, squinting at the photograph and then at your work that's beside it. There's some columns alongside, so I want to make sure I get those painted in. And then a few darker darks right in there. I always like to use the baking a cake. You know, you decorate the cake and you put the frosting on, which was the first stage, and then you go ahead and start decorating it. This is what the painting looks like completed, and I think is pretty successful as a value sketch. Thank you for watching.